All right, guys. So the end of the last video where I left off was I created this number line here at the bottom. This is box plots notes part 2. So I created this number line at the bottom here with from 0 to 10 because my data values go from 0 to 9. So why not go to 10? Sure. And now I'm going to go ahead and take the information that I found from my data set and make it into a box plot so that it's a little bit easier to see all the information that's going on in this craziness up here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start from left to right. I'm going to start with my least value, and I'm going to work my way all the way up to my greatest value and make this box plot. Okay, and if you see, I actually went ahead and numbered the pieces of information. So I'm going to go ahead and start with number 1 right here, which is my least value. So I'm going to go ahead and plot that as a dot just above that number on the number line. So my least value is 0. So I'm going to put a dot just above 0. Okay. My next piece of information is the number 2 here, which is also the value itself is 2. So my lower quartile is my second dot on my box plot. Okay. So my lower quartile. So I'm going to put just a dot above the number 2. Okay. My third piece of information to make my box plot is my median. Okay, that's my middle value out of all of my data. My median here is 3. So I'm going to put a dot above the number 3. Okay. My fourth piece of information is my upper quartile. Okay, so huge part of a box plot is the fact that it tells me my upper quartile and my lower quartile as well as my median. Those can be very important pieces of information. Okay, my upper quartile is my fourth dot, and that's 5.5. So about halfway between 5 and 6, I'm going to put another dot. Okay, and then my last piece of information is my greatest value, which is in this case 9. So I'm just going to put a dot above the number 9. Okay. And now this doesn't look like a box plot yet because it's not. It's just a bunch of dots on a number line. Okay, so what I'm going to do in order to make it into a box plot where it actually kind of draws out the information a little bit more clear for us is I'm going to put a box connecting the lower quartile and the upper quartile. And then I'm just going to draw a line through the median. Okay, and that's my box part of my box plot. Then to connect the least and the greatest value, all I'm literally going to do is just draw lines out to those values, okay? To kind of connect it all into one plot, okay? So now this is the completed version of a box plot, okay? And this seems a little funny, but it does actually tell us a lot of information. For instance, the median tells us the middle piece of data, which is great. You guys already know that. The least and the greatest values tell us obviously our least and greatest values within this data set. You know, depending on what the data set is talking about, that can be super important. Now, the lower and the upper quartiles, what they end up telling us is the lower quartile tells us the average of the lowest 25% of our data, and the upper quartile tells us the average of the upper 75% of our data. So in statistics, these pieces of information are actually super important and helping us kind of draw conclusions based off of whatever the data is showing us. Especially if we're using a random sample, it tends to be very accurate in actually explaining to us stuff about, the population or the sample, whatever it is that we're talking about. Okay, I will go ahead and post formal notes on pieces of the box plot so that you guys can go ahead and copy those and make it a little bit easier for you. Other than that, that's it. That's box plots.